thank you everyone for watching tonight's Lisa Live. And this is Lee Blake, for those of you who don't know him and haven't come across him yet. We're going to do the usual format that we do on these, where we have a bit of a chat and a discussion, and then we'll open it up for questions for the last 10 minutes or so. So if you've got any questions for Lee as we go along, if you pop it in the comments, I will track through them at the end and we'll try and answer as many as we can in the time that we've got. So Lee, it's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
For those who don't know you, do you want to tell people a bit about yourself and how you got into supported living?
Yeah, so I'm a Brummie, born and bred in Birmingham, and I was actually homeless as a kid when my mum and dad split up. So I lived in like a crappy B&B, and then I shared a bed with my mum and sister for months, and then I shared a bedroom when I was a teenager with my mum and sister. So I've always had like a passion for homelessness. And then it's a bit cheesy, but I got excluded from school 6 times in my last 2 years. But then I got a degree and went traveling. And
impressively.
Yeah, but then it's a bit cheesy, but I wanted to give something back. So I got a job as a teacher and a youth worker. And I worked with kids that got kicked out of school and put them back on the straight and narrow. And then that was great. It was a youth worker. I was working for the council, which is come in really handy because we have to speak to the council all the time there. But I got just a bit cheesed off with the council and the bureaucracy, and I suppose I'm entrepreneurial and I always have been. So I bought my first property 20 odd years ago when I was 23, I think, or something like that. And so I had a little portfolio, 2007-8, just before the crash. I sold all my properties and paid off my mortgage, because I was raised, debt is bad, mortgages are bad, pay off your mortgage as soon as you can. That's your traditional working class kind of upbringing. So when the recession happened before, I was sitting on loads of money, but I just paid off my mortgage, still had some money. I bought a holiday home in Spain. That was a dream and stuff. But then 5 years ago, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and Property Magic by Simon Zucci, and it was like a real light bulb moment for me. And I went back into property. I remortgaged the house that I'd paid off when I was 33. And so I was sitting on a little bit of money, and I just went into property. And then I had a mate, and you might hear a lot about him tonight, called Mark Peters. He runs a social enterprise called Start Again, and we were youth work buddies. And I went to see him and said, "Oh, tell me about this supported accommodation malarkey." And he just kind of talked me through it, and yeah, that's it really. So he gave me a little bit of insight.
He was already doing it, was he?
Yeah. He's been doing it for years and years and years. Yeah. And so he introduced me. He said, "You need to go and speak to this RSL, or registered provider." I didn't have a clue who they were. So I've got loads and loads of weaknesses, but one of my strengths is research. I'm that guy up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was kind of stalking the RSL and the person that I need to speak to. But it must have taken me 2, 3, 4 months just to get an interview or to get a meeting with the RSL.
When you're saying RSL, you're saying registered social landlord?
Yeah, registered social landlord. So I do, there's lots of different kinds of supported accommodation. I would say that the supported accommodation I do is the lowest level of support. And actually, we spoke about this earlier, so should I try and share the screen?
Yeah, absolutely, that would be great.
Put that up.
Yep, that's sharing, brilliant.
I'm just going to try and make it a bit bigger for you. So yeah, so I work with, most of the people I work with are sofa surfers. So they're kind of down the bottom of this triangle. There are lots of them in numbers, but they would be called the hidden homeless. So the people that at the top, they're the like real entrenched rough sleepers. They're the people that have kind of, some of them have got addictions or they've got mental health issues, and they might go into hostels or Housing First. Speak to Amy Varl if you know about Housing First. She was on this a couple of weeks ago. She taught me all about Housing First. And then kind of going down the pyramid or the triangle, almost all of my tenants are kind of sofa surfers. So they've got a girlfriend, they have an argument with the girlfriend kicks them out, they go and sleep on a mate's sofa for 2 nights, then another mate's sofa for a week, then they go and live with their nan. But they're a bit chaotic, but you know, they're not bad people at all. They're normal people. They haven't got crazy addictions or whatever. They're just like you and I, but they don't have their own place to live, so they're technically homeless.
And they fall outside a lot of the support and stuff, don't they?
Yeah. So most of my tenants get 1 hour a week support delivered by the charity that I work with, and a lot of the support is just about moving on in life. So it's most of my tenants need a bit of love. Some of them need some tough love. Some of them need a kick up the bum and a bit of motivation. But the charity, I think they're contracted to do between 1 and 3 hours a week support. So nobody lives in their house. So I typically buy 3-bed, 4-bed HMOs, family houses.
Do you want to stop the screen and we'll go back to your and we'll talk about your model? If you
Oh yeah, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, stop the share.
Yeah, no, brilliant. That's it.
Is it gone? Cool. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Well done.
so I typically buy 3 or 4-bed houses, and I turn them into 3, 4, 5-bed HMOs, and 3, 4, 5 people live in them. But no support staff live there. So it's not learning difficulties or autism or physical disabilities. It's just people that need a little bit of help in life. So the floating support, sorry, I'm just going to get rid of that. The floating support would go to the house, maybe for an afternoon a week, and interview 4 residents, put it all on the cloud, so the charity can keep an eye on each individual. And a lot of it is about moving on in life. So it's getting their own flat and making it, or a studio apartment, and making sure that they're bidding every week to get up the council waiting list or the housing association waiting list. It's stuff like, are people getting are they on the right benefits? Are they getting the support that they need to move on in life? So it's not, people that are like got real bad mental health issues. It's just people that need a little bit of help and support, maybe with finance, with budgeting, even things like cooking. It's all stuff that you would hope that your mum or dad or both parents would teach their children, but some people aren't lucky enough to have 1 or 2 or even 1 parent that teach them that independent living skills. So a lot of the support that happens in my house is kind of low level stuff, but to kind of average people, it's like, oh, that's kind of low level. But if no one's ever taught you that stuff, that's it. And I've got 2 distinct tenant groups. One is, I'd say, like young people who are, well, by young, 18 to 30. They've had jobs, but they've fallen out of jobs. Maybe they smoke a little bit too much weed sometimes, but they're not, really high all the time. And they've just kind of fallen down on their luck a bit. And then the other set of people that I work with are like middle-aged men who have just split up with their families or their missuses or whatever, and they've been slung out and they don't have any money, so they go into like a HMO. And that's where it's really important that we match the tenants to the kind of a similar demographic. So we don't want 40, 50-year-old men living with 18-year-olds, because generally it's not going to work, if you know what I mean.
How long do people generally live in your properties?
Our average stay, we've done this, we've tracked this, our average stay is 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
I have 2 or 3 guys, they're the older guys, and they've been there for about 3 years. And to be honest, I don't know if they're going to move on, because they're kind of jobs and stuff like that, it's not looking good for them. And sometimes, although this is getting a lot better, because the charity that I work with are really good, they might get 100 referrals a week, but they might only take 20. So they know that in an hour a week, they're not going to undo maybe 20 years or 16 years of bad parenting or whatever. So they will only take people that they know that they can help. If they think that they're not the right referral, they'll say, listen, this guy needs too much support, and on an hour a week, we can't give enough support to help. So sometimes it doesn't work out. So after a week, they move on. But generally that doesn't happen, because there's a good vetting procedure, and we don't take same day referrals. We always look through, we speak to the person making the referral, we might speak to their parents, we might speak to social worker or probation worker, and check the background, and also check that they're going to get on with the rest of the house.
Mm-hmm. So they're quite selective about who they work with then, really.
Yeah. And I suppose they're kind of, a lot of registered social landlords would just chase the money, but mine don't. So I've got an average occupancy rate of 85, 90%. And so when I first started, I think I had 4 rooms, and 2 rooms were empty for a bit. And I was like, oh no, I kind of need it. But now I've got a few rooms. So I've got, 3 or 4 empty rooms, but actually it's going to be crazy under Corona, and I've only got 1 spare room, and I think that should go tomorrow actually. But I'm okay with having a void. I'd much rather have a void than put the wrong person into the wrong house. And some registered social landlords would see homeless people as assets, and I can get 200 quid a week or 250 quid a week, and they don't care who they put with whom. But I do, because I have to sleep at night, and I also don't want my house to get wrecked, and I don't want, I could tell you loads, and I do tell loads of horror stories about, bad practice that I've come across. That's why I work with like good, reputable providers.
And your model is quite different in that you don't have a lease, do you? Someone doesn't take a 5-year lease from your properties.
No, so I don't get guaranteed rent. I only get paid if someone sleeps in one of my rooms. I generally have a 6-month lease with it's just 6 months with the RSL. But I think I've got 7, 8, 9 houses with them, and for 3 or 4 years. So they generally don't give it me back, because I like to think that I'm a good landlord. And, if, for instance, the other day, one of my tenants said they moved on from job seekers allowance to universal credit. So for the first time in their lives, they got a budget for a whole month.
Right.
And they were like, oh, we've only got like a little free freezer. So the RSL phoned me and said, oh, the guys have said, can you please get them another freezer? And luckily I had one in a garage. So I've got a handyman, a maintenance manager. So I said, oh, Tony, can you please go and pick up that spare freezer and put it there? 2 hours later, they had a spare freezer, and which, importantly for the guys, they had their monthly universal credit payment. They went and bought all their ingredients, all their food, they cooked, and they put their food away and froze it. And so the RSL, I think, see me as a good landlord who cares. And so that's one reason that I've got good occupancy rates, and I get on well with them, because, they're very, I wouldn't say fussy. They're just, so I went to see one of my places yesterday, and because of Corona, my handyman is off, because he's 60 years old, and he's a black man, so he's kind of vulnerable. So he's not working. So the gardens are all grown up, and I'm like, oh no, if they see them, they're going to start nagging me, because they don't want the house to stand out as the dodgy house that supported accommodation. They want it to look like a nice house in the neighborhood. So I'm really good at that. So, but under Corona, they've given me a little bit of a leeway.
Everything's very confusing.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about the property? So what would you do you said a 3 or 4 bed?
Yeah, so I typically buy ex-local authority places, ex-council houses. And a typical house in Birmingham, South Birmingham, will be around 100k. I've paid a bit more than that, and I've paid a bit less than that. And it has to be fully compliant. So all the certificates, of course, need to be there. The fire risk assessment needs to be done before the charity will come out, and then they'll come and sign it off. And they'll always like say, oh, that needs to change. So I did a course with Julian Maurice a few years ago. So I did a nice feature wall, and they said, we don't like that feature wall, turn it back to Magnolia. I was like, oh, bloody hell. So they always tell me to do something, but that's what they're paid for. And then they come, and then, just have to get the fire doors, the intermittent strips, the smoke alarms. Each bedroom, each vulnerable door. So I've got one boiler in the bathroom, so I didn't put, because of my inexperience, I didn't put the fire door on that. So the fire risk assessment picked that up. So I just put a fire door on that. So yeah, the kitchen, the living room, blah, blah. So I typically buy a 3-bed house and turn it into a 4-bed or a 5-bed. If I can, I add value wherever I can, and like put a garage conversion or a small extension or something like that, and just get more bang for my buck, I suppose. But I think the biggest I've got is the 6-bed. I don't really want, I believe in like learning to walk before you can run. And I suppose now I'm kind of jogging, do you know what I mean? So I've got mates saying, why don't you get a 15-bed? I'm like, well, I don't want that stress of like have 15 potentially chaotic people like living in like the one house. So I like just 3 and 4, maybe 5. Now I'm kind of jogging. I might test myself a little bit more, but I needed to learn my trade first.
And do you tend to put en suites into those? What do you do with
No, I don't have any en suite. So I've got a 5-bed. So obviously you can't have 5 to 1 with a bathroom. I do have, luckily, some of the ex-council houses that they've got a cloakroom downstairs, but a family bathroom upstairs. So that's cool. But if I've got a 5-bed or a 6-bed, then I'll put an extra shower room in. And again, I suppose I think I buy in the correct areas of Birmingham. All my properties are in Birmingham, but there's lots of supported accommodation in the so-called inner city, where prices were cheap maybe 30, 40 years ago. But there's loads and loads of supported accommodation in inner city Birmingham. But most of my tenants are working class white men who don't want to be in the so-called black or Asian or Muslim areas of the inner city. So I buy in more working class white areas for my tenant type. And as a consequence, like property prices are probably cheaper there. So I get like really, really good return on investments. And so that's why I always say this for me is the holy grail, because I come from teaching and youth work background. So I'm used to helping people, but I wasn't really earning enough money, and boring stuff like pensions and stuff like that. It wasn't really happening for me. But now I'm kind of all right. Like I'm financially free and all that kind of stuff. And so, but I'm still helping people and still helping society, but I'm also getting an honest living too, which is, for me, it's the holy grail.
Perfect, absolutely. I think that's what interests a lot of people in supported living. So it sounds like your property model is very minimal adaptation required, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the other modules that we've talked about.
So some of my refurb costs are, like, my cheapest was I think 1,500 quid because it was perfect inside. So the smoke alarms were the radio linked ones because I didn't want to put trunk in and stuff or get plasters out. And fire doors, and that was 1,500 quid. But I average, I don't know, 5-7 grand. Fire doors, maybe new bathroom, LMPG kitchen. So it's I never like have to go to town. I don't have any designer furniture or anything. But all the stuff is new. I just get furniture packs for like, I think it's 270 quid I pay for. I have to provide, apart from the bed apart from the room in the house. In the room, there's got to be a bed, so I get an orthopedic mattress, a bed, a headboard, nice headboard, and a wardrobe, a chest of drawers, and a bedside cabinet. That cost me 270 quid. Brand new carpets, brand new paint everywhere. So it all looks like really good when I hand it over. And so it's a bit sad really, because I always road test the houses as well. So I go and live there for a night or two and make sure the shower doesn't leak and all that kind of stuff. And just put the central heating on full bath for a bit to make sure there's no leak. So just save yourself lots of stress in the future. But most of my tenants say this is the nicest place I've ever lived, and they're not like luxurious, but they're just nice and clean. The stuff that most of us would take for granted, but I've seen the pictures of where they move from, and some of them are just like really bad. Like one of my tenants, I don't know if anyone ever watched Benefit Street. One of my tenants was Fungi, who was on Benefit Street. And no, sorry, he wasn't one of my tenants. He came through Homeless Rooms Birmingham, which we'll talk about in a bit. And I put him somewhere else with my RSL. And he said, he got scraped off the floor, literally, by a dodgy RSL. And I've got it on video, actually. And he said, like...
You mean scraped it as in he was street homeless?
He was street homeless. And someone said, are you on Universal Credit? He said, yeah. He said, oh, I've got a room for you. Picked him up, put him in a van with 3 other people that he'd never met, put him in his house. And then he said, like, Fungi said, I wouldn't put my bloody dog in there. And he left after half an hour and said, I'm better off living in the, sleeping in the graveyard than this place. And so he left. So that's the kind of practice that sometimes happens, which obviously we don't get involved in.
You've got some case studies of some of your properties, haven't you? Do you want to?
Yes, let me. It's on this one. So this is, we'll call him Simon, shall we?
Oh yeah, this.
So do you want the properties or?
Whichever works better.
Let's do the properties first. Okay. I'm just gonna try and make this big. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I've got a BMV website I launched tonight. I'm selling 300 of them called Summer House Quickly, and this lead came through my website. So I bought it for 50k. This was 4 or 5 years ago. Bought it for 50k. It was a woman that was living in Dubai, and she just wanted to sell it really quickly. I spent 10 grand on it, and I got it remortgaged. So it was like my first, I didn't even know what a no money left in deal was, but it was my first no money left in deal. I went snowboarding. So I invested 60k. I got 62 back. Went snowboarding with my sons in Norway with the 2k. Put the 60k back in the bank. At first, I rented it to a family for just like $550 a month, but now I do supported accommodation there, and I get over 2k a month in rent for that. And then this other one, this was through Purple Bricks. I love Purple Bricks as a buyer. You just go straight direct to vendor and build the rapport. I bought this 2 years ago, 85k. I spent 7k on it. I get £158 per person per week per room. I've got something like a 95% occupancy rate here because it's in the right area for my tenants. They, you know, they love kind of living here as opposed to living in the inner city. So I gross 32 grand a year from that, which comes down to, when it's full, £2,738 a month. The bills are about 350. Everything, I pay all the bills just like a normal HMO. I just refinanced that, take 80k. It wasn't quite a no money left in deal, but it's like 450% return on investment. So yeah, it's kind of really, it's like I said, it's good, it's lucrative, but if you do it right and you help people as well, it's the holy grail for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go back to that case study and show us?
Oh yes. So
that's a really.
This is Simon. So yeah, he was one of my tenants, and this wasn't even supported accommodation, but because I'm a youth worker by heart, he was about 18 when he came to me, but he got kicked out of his home when he was 15. And he was doing like drugs and sofa surfing and in really dodgy hostels in Birmingham. He was a bit vulnerable and he's been exploited. But then he became one of my tenants it was like an LHA HMO. So I was just getting £6 a week LHA for him, and maybe £10 top up or something. And then he stopped paying his top up, and he stopped going to the job centre because he was smoking too much. And then he got sanctioned. I didn't get any rent. So by the time I caught up with him, it was like 2 or 3 months later. So I said, right, you got two choices. I'm going to give you a Section 21, which is stress and hassle for me, or I'm just buying a new property, all the donkey work, come and help me do the donkey work, and I'll pay you to do it. So he kind of did that, but he like really, really, really got into it, and he got like some self-esteem and self-respect. And apart from the few times where he couldn't get up in the mornings, but I kind of said to him, like, I will, because I'm like, people think I'm like really soft on that, but especially because I'm a youth worker, I know sometimes you have to turn it on and you have to have some tough love. And I said, I will kick you out. I will like evict you, like, because you know, if you can't be bothered to go to the job centre to sign on because it was on JSA, then you know you have to face the consequences. I'm massive on with my kids and with the youth work and with my tenants, consequences to actions. So, but he after a week or two he got into it and he was really, really good. And we discovered that he's a perfect like DIY handyman. And so, unfortunately, he got bloody headhunted by a landlord who's like much bigger and better than me. And I think he's only like £90.50 an hour through the book. So he's like a tax-paying member of society now. He's got a girlfriend. They've got a flat. He's become a dad. I think he's about 22 now, actually. And you know, we could argue that without the intervention, he may well have become street homeless because he was chaotic. And I think the stats are if you're on the streets, you're 6 times more likely to use A&E and 8 times more likely to enter criminal justice system. It costs us 30 or 40 grand a year to lock someone up. And if we have to section someone, it's 194 grand a year. But here's like a case study of someone that's actually contributing to society. And, you know, he comes from like a family where his dad and his granddad don't really know what work is, if you know what I mean. They kind of, it's just, worklessness is just kind of rife in the area that he's from, but hopefully he's breaking that cycle. And this wasn't even supported accommodation, it was just me. I've got a mentoring and a counselling qualification, so I suppose I just like to help people, and I'll give anyone like 1 or 2 chances. He was probably on his 4th one, but he grasped it, if you know what I mean. So it's good, and I still speak to him now with like mates on Facebook and stuff. So he's doing all right. And my plan, obviously he's got no GCSEs or anything like that. My plan is my handyman who's 60. They know each other because they work together. I want to bring Shane back as his apprentice, put him through college and get him some proper qualifications. But the problem is now I could pay him like, I don't know, £4 an hour as an apprentice, but he's not going to come and work £4 an hour. But I still want to do it because it's a brilliant case study for me, and I like the kid as well. So I'd have to bump up his wages, but he also needs some solid qualifications behind him too.
That's fantastic. Do you want to stop the screen share and we'll go on to what's the next thing? So you mentioned about homeless rooms, and that's something, you know, that you tell us a bit about how that came about.
So the original idea for homeless rooms is from Mark, my business partner and guy that mentored me. So he came to me. We had an executive board meeting in a place called Moseley in Wetherspoons. I had a board meeting. And he said, oh, you know how to build websites, Lee? He said, oh, I've always got like 2 or 3 rooms empty, and I'm always having the same boring conversations like, Mark, how many rooms have you got? Where are they? I said, can you just build me a website, put my rooms on them, and a referral form, and then all the social workers and all that, they can just have a look. And I said, oh, I've got 2 rooms empty at the moment, and I don't know why. There's loads of homelessness. So I started to do like lots more research and stuff, and we kind of found out that there are 12,000 supported accommodation rooms in Birmingham, and the average void rate is 10%. So that means there's 1,200 rooms tonight that are empty, that homeless people and sofa surfers could be sleeping in. But because the council and all the charities and the social enterprise sector don't really talk to each other, nobody knows, and RSLs kind of hate each other. They don't talk to each other. So no one knows. There's no one database. The council don't know where all the rooms are. There's nowhere to advertise the room. So Mark was talking about a little website, and I was like, this is the way that I think. I'm like, no, Mark, you're going to become a sir. This is an amazing idea. He's like, what are you talking about? If you had too many rum and cokes? I said, no, it's lunchtime. We're in Wetherspoons. I've just had 1 coke. And I said, like, no, we're going to do homeless rooms Birmingham. Then we're going to do homeless rooms West Midlands. Then it's going to be homeless rooms London, Manchester, kind of everywhere. And he's like, what are you talking about, Lee? So to cut a long story short, the original site is homelessroomsbirmingham.co.uk. We did a crowdfunder. We asked for 5 grand. We got 15. We did 4 bids because it's a CIC, it's a social enterprise, and we were successful with 3 of them. We did like a big business planning thing with something called the Young Foundation in London. Went to London like every 2 weeks for 6 months, like doing a business plan for this business. But the Birmingham City Council, the 3 councillors that we pitched it to, they said, we love this idea, we need it, it's amazing, but they said, you shouldn't do it in Birmingham. And I was like, why? And they said, we're the largest local authority in Europe, we don't do innovation, we don't do anything first. Go to Manchester, go to other councils, do it there. And we were like, listen, man, there's no way I'm going up the bloody M6. Like, I'm not doing that. And I'm a proud Brummie, and I'm going to do it in Birmingham. But 2 years on, after loads of bureaucracy, I really wished I would have listened to that advice. So we're about to pivot, actually. So the website's up. Last year, I think we housed 50 people, and we spent 15 grand. So I know it's a really cost-effective way to do it. We want it to be like the right move or the spare room for homelessness. And there's nothing like it, we believe, definitely locally and maybe nationally. And we want to kind of prove it in Birmingham, and then put it all over the country. Like I said, homeless rooms, Manchester, homeless rooms, London, Devon, wherever. So that's the kind of plan. And it's like, we want to help raise the standards in the sector, standards of the accommodation and standards of support. So I like to give the analogy as we like student accommodation. So when I was a student many moons ago, student accommodation was pretty rank and it was rubbish. But the internet, I believe, and shone transparency on that sector. And student accommodation now is like palatial. It's like hotel-like, isn't it? All the little pods and stuff. And that's the internet. So we want to do something similar for homelessness. Just because people are homeless or sofa surfers, number one, doesn't mean that they don't deserve like a choice of where they live. Because a lot of people say, well, go here, go to the inner city, you must be there. And a lot of my tenants are really scared to be there. So one, they can choose where they want to be. And 2, if you're a dodgy landlord and you've got, a moldy bathroom, whatever, you're not going to take pictures of that and put it on the internet. But if you're a good landlord, the majority of the landlords in this sector are good, but they're not very good at marketing or PR. So this is a way that they can kind of shout and almost, if we've got 12,000 rooms in Birmingham, we believe that 3,000 of them are rubbish. And we literally, I'm a visionary. I think I want to allow those 3,000 people to move to better rooms. So, that's what we want to reward the good landlords and punish the bad landlords, or
raising the standards and increasing that visibility.
Yeah, just competition in the market.
Yeah, that's such a great idea.
Yeah, so that's what we want to do there.
Brilliant. I know lots of people listening will be thinking, oh, this is brilliant. How do I get into this? How do I go about starting this? I love the rent you're getting for a standard property. I can almost hear it. What advice would you say to people who are looking and thinking?
So the first thing to do, come and do my training day. Sorry, I had to get the plug in. So in Birmingham, I don't know about the rest of the country, but you can go direct to council, or you can go via an RSL or an RP. So I like the RSL route because I kind of choose to be involved with my tenants, but I'm not obligated to. I'm obligated to do the maintenance, but I've now got a handyman that does that. So I don't, these hands are not made for DIY at all. They're made to swipe left and right and stuff like that. So I don't get involved with the maintenance at all. So that's great. So yeah, so I have to do, I don't have to do the support, but I go and check my houses. I don't have to, but I want to. I don't like the, oh, just don't touch your house for 5 years. I don't really believe in that. So I don't go all the time, but especially during Corona, I've been all the time and got to know some tenants and stuff. But I'm not obligated to do it. So it's all about, for me, the relationship with the RSL. But like I said, it took me 2, 3, 4 months just to get an interview. And
with you understanding the system and knowing how, from your background and where you've been working, you understood that system and how to navigate it as well.
Kind of. Like, I suppose I had... Pardon?
Do you not think that gave you an advantage into finding out how to...
I think, well, I had a friend that was doing it, and so he told me where to go. So I could have just got that 1800 list and started phoning everyone and blah, blah. So I didn't need to do that. I got to know all the other RSLs in Birmingham because they're interested in homeless rooms, and there are some interesting characters, shall we say, in other RSLs. But the one that I went to, I knew that they were good, so I kind of waited for them because I don't want to get in bed with dodgy people who are going to go bump and all this kind of do.
How would you know? How would someone know?
So one of the things that I suppose, one, you just got to ask everyone and speak to everyone. So I see lots of messages in your group and other property groups. So that's a good start if you get a recommendation. But then, you might get a hit list. But one of the first things I would do is go onto Companies House or judedeal.com and find out what's the churn of the directors and what other interests do the directors have. So what happens a lot is you might have, I don't know, ABC Properties or ABC Housing, and last year they were called XYZ Housing, and then they've somehow retained the golden kind of ticket of the RSL membership and the number, but they keep on going, not bump, but they keep on closing down the company, maybe with debts or whatever. And so if there's lots of directors that keep changing, I would steer clear of them. But saying that one, in my RSL, there has been a lot of change in the last year or two, but we kind of knew that and they're transparent about it. So yeah, you just got to speak to people, got to take people for lunches, I suppose, and just kind of just get your boots on the ground. And
people, when you're saying to speak to people, anyone in particular you would say you should speak to?
So one of the things that when people come on my training day, I say to them, if you're not doing any volunteer work, if you want to get into this, you should go and help out in your local food bank or something, or the local homelessness shelter, and find out who the players are in your area. Do you know what I mean? And then get introductions and go and see them. Do you know what I mean? And then there's loads of other little hints and tips. But yeah, I suppose it's just, if you don't know anything, you need to not be someone, but if you're just another person on the phone, well, you need to understand that the RSLs, especially in Birmingham, they're inundated. Like, what landlord wouldn't want to treble or quadruple their rent? Do you know what I mean? So, and they told me they've got the CEO told me we've got gatekeepers to keep me away from people like you. And he said, but I had something really innovative to pitch him, but it still took me 3 months to make the pitch. When I did, I blew him away. But I used my social enterprise background and stuff, and he was like, wow, and he said, I couldn't say no because you had a really good idea. He said, you're the first person that's ever come to me and said, I've got a really innovative way to work with young homeless people. But that was because of my social enterprise background and my youth work background. But again, on my day, I get angles out of everyone. What we do isn't rocket science, but you just need to understand a little bit of the inside knowledge, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think that makes it really obvious, and that's been a theme through some of the other interviews that we've done, is that it isn't a matter of just picking up the phone and someone going, oh, hooray, we'll work with you tomorrow. It takes a lot of work and time to get these relationships.
Like with the RSL that I work with, lots of people that work there used to work for local authority, so they have the local authority mindset, and things don't move quickly. And I can be like, yeah, but I've learned to calm down. So I've got to go at their pace, and now I've got 30 odd rooms, and that's cool. Whereas I started with 2 and 4. So, and yeah, I hope to put more on very, very soon because there's a massive need for it, and they like me, and so yeah, it's going well.
But it is that relationship, isn't it? That's what's so key.
Absolutely, like, people buy from people, don't they? And they, if you come across and say, "Well, show me the money," that I think money was like the last thing that we spoke about.
Yeah.
So it was like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to help. These are my ideas. What do you need? So you need to come at it. Like I say to people on my training day, what's that old propaganda poster? Ask what can you do for your country? So you need to give the RSL something.
Yeah.
Don't go to them and say, "Oh, I heard you can trouble my rent." You're just one of 100 people that have said that to them in the last month. Do you know what I mean?
And that's really interesting about the fact that actually are active gatekeeping processes to keep.
Oh yeah. They just they've got their jobs to do, and they don't want landlords just phoning saying, "Oh, how do you can trouble my rent?" They're just
and a lot of these organisations are quite small, aren't they? Some are massive, but some of them are a couple of people doing many different roles. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's understanding that whole system, isn't it? I think there's quite a few questions, Lee. So I'm conscious I'm going to just have a quick scroll through and see.
Okay, cool. I can't see any of them.
Are asking. No, they're all on the Facebook thing. So you want to have a quick squiz and see. So if you've got questions for Lee, if you want to start putting them in to the comments. Right, what have we got? I'm sure I've seen some here.
While you're doing that, can I just do my product placement? So my social enterprise was t-shirt printing and design for young people. So we've done this Born in the NHS t-shirts. Go to borninthennhs.co.uk. I think £7.50 for each one that we sell is going to charity. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Someone's asked about how they get in contact with you to find out more about your stuff. I know you were getting that up.
Yeah, I'll put that up
in a minute.
Yeah, carry on.
No, it's all right. It's all good. Someone saying try bright red and yellow if you're doing the Julian refurb. That's a comment. Where do you get your furniture packs from £275 from?
It's just a local little guy in Birmingham. I think he only works in Birmingham. He's crazy busy. To be fair, I've sent him loads of people, and they don't get the prices that I get. But it's probably only about 300. But it's really decent quality. So,
someone else was asked as well. Interested to know where you get your furniture for £275.
Yeah, if you, I've turned my phone off because it just went off on silent. It was vibrating, so I'll have to go in. But it's just like it's in ACOT screen in Birmingham. So
someone's asking about voluntary work in the current climate as a question mark. I think someone's just making the comment about.
Yeah, I suppose it's going to be difficult now to go out and help people. But I suppose the council in Birmingham, they put loads of homeless people up in the hotel, so some people are working, but. Yeah, hopefully Corona's not going to go on forever. So.
No. What's happening with the people who've been put up in hotels? Have you heard? Because there's been some.
I've heard that they're being released from the hotels. And we're hoping to say, well, why don't you just send them to homeless rooms and we'll find rooms for them. But it's a political thing. So, but I know I'm definitely seeing more homeless people in the last week or two on the streets again.
Are you?
And yeah, I'm seeing more homeless people on the streets, and yeah, we're getting busier, more referrals on homeless rooms, and like I said, I've only got one spare room where I've usually got 3 or 4. So yeah,
you've gone back to the case study. If you want to go back to maybe just start, and then we'll do. So someone's asked, how many years left do you think the council will pay supported accommodation before doing it themselves, rather than giving away so much money to landlords/companies?
I suppose what you need to understand is the money doesn't actually come from the council; it comes from central government. So
Can you stop the screen share? Sorry, I don't.
New share. That's what.
Right, it all comes down to you doing it all when it's.
Oh, sorry. I need PowerPoint and I need to go down that way.
You should just be able to find the end screen share.
There we go. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Oh, it's half gone.
Can you find the Zoom bit?
Ah, got it.
So, sorry, you were... Oh no, we're back on.
You got that?
No, we're back on your homeless rooms page. Do you want to go back to this end screen share? don't worry, we'll leave it on there. Don't worry, carry on talking.
Okay,
Cool. So, sorry, you were saying about how long they'll carry on giving the money away to landlords / companies is what this person's asking.
Yeah, so it comes from central government, not the council. The council can, like, they administer it, but they can get the 100% rebate back. And that's, we positioned, especially homeless rooms, so the council say, like, we know you, in 2016, Birmingham City Council, from their council tax main budget, spent 4.4 million on crappy B&Bs and expensive travel lodges. So actually, what we do is good news for local councils. It's not so good for central government. So I don't know how many years left, but I know they tried to change it 2 or 3 years ago, and they said that they were going to give all the money to the council, and the council can make the decisions. But some of the big boys, some of the big RPs, housing associations and RPs, they said, okay, if you give, for instance, Birmingham City Council, we met the commissioner, he's got maybe a £25 million budget, and all of a sudden he was thinking, whoa, I'm going to get an extra 150 million. But the big boys in the sector lobbied the government, said, if you do that, then you can expect Birmingham City Council, they can't even change the bins, they can't even, they're shutting libraries and social care. They said that 150 million, lots of that will be spent on other services. We'll shut our doors, and if you think you've like doubled or trebled homelessness, if you make these changes, the homelessness is going to go absolutely crackers. Yeah. And the government changed their mind, and they gave more money to the regulator of social housing to help police the sector finally, which is a good thing. But even that, it's quite slow. They look at the board, they look at the financial transactions, they don't go and see houses, they don't go check the support notes. That's what they should be doing. So I think there's a good few years left in it, because they can't just put loads of homeless people. There's some hostels in Birmingham, 100, 104, 120 people. If they change it too drastically and those big boys shut their doors, they're all going out on the streets, and it'll be, if you think it's bad now, it'll be 10 times worse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's keeping that money ring fenced, isn't it? For, yeah. Exactly for that. Yeah. What else have we got here? We've got furniture packs. Cash flow leasing is amazing. We help build furniture packs, especially for social housing. Someone's saying here. Okay. Someone's asking about your training. Have students been able to implement your model outside of Birmingham?
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit like like planning policy. What I teach is like it's statutory, it's the law, but each individual council interprets the law as they see fit and to their local need. So it's kind of so I'm trying to get into Walsall at the moment because I've got a deal in Walsall, and it's really tough. We got interviewed, we got grilled twice, but they're interested. They're like, well, we like our ideas, but they're not like, it's not like, oh yeah, definitely, here you go. It's like, okay, we're not like Birmingham. We're like, we do things properly. So, but I'm confident that I can do it. Like, we're doing the deal, and it's going to be like a really good innovative project there. So yeah, I think we'll do it, but it's just a bit even slower than Birmingham.
There's lots of lovely comments as well. People have obviously really enjoyed the content and what you're saying, Lee. So thank you ever so much. You've put your contact details up. People can obviously contact you if they want to find out more. And I know you'll share those again into the comments.
I'll put it in I'm just going to put it into the Facebook group now.
Yeah, if that's okay. You just put it under the comments under this one. That would be great. Yeah, but we can do it in a minute. So thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you everyone else who's watched at home. And we look forward to seeing you next week for the next one.
Cool. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks for having me.